Hello, my name's Harry. Today I'm going to be reviewing Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. It's the first in the Song of Ice and Fire series. There are 5 books so far and another 2 to come. I strongly recommend reading the book. It is a really interesting read. It is very similar to the first series of HBO's TV series, Game of Thrones, because they cover pretty much the same story, and the series is very good at getting all the main points, not changing too much. It seems to be very strongly influenced by different historical people and events. The war to try and get control of the throne is very similar to the War of the Roses, in which the House of Yorkshire and the House of Lancaster fought to try and gain control of the throne in Britain. And also the Lannisters seem to be very strongly influenced by the Borgia family, who in Italy used a lot of money to gain control over the country. Also, the religions in Westeros, where Game of Thrones is set, seem to be very similar to our religions. It started with the old gods, who, when settlers came, they brought with them a new religion and tried to destroy the old gods. Very similar to the first Christians in Britain did with paganism. The story is told in the third person from the perspective of many different characters. A member of the Night's Watch called Will, who tells us his story in the prologue. Then there's Eddard Stark, Catelyn Stark, Arya Stark, Sansa Stark, Bran Stark, Jon Snow, who is Eddard Stark's bastard son, Tyrion Lannister, and Daenerys Targaryen. Probably my favourite character so far is Tyrion Lannister, who, even though his house is probably like the baddies, because he's a dwarf, he is sort of looked upon with distrust and hatred by members of his family. He has to use his wit to actually achieve his goals, which is very visible in the second book, A Clash of Kings. Quite a lot of people have told me that they're not really interested in like fantasy, like Lord of the Rings, that type of thing. But Game of Thrones isn't like that. I've always described it as a political drama that just happens to be set in a fantasy world. It's really good read. I'd strongly recommend it if you've enjoyed the TV series. I'd recommend reading the books. And if you've enjoyed the books, I'd recommend watching the TV series. They're both brilliant. However, the edge obviously has to go to the books.